Hello and welcome to another episode of not an actual episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. That makes any sense. It's Tuesday, and on Tuesday we don't do normal episodes. I do a little solo episode, and it's week 2, and we're already changing the name because someone called Jeff sent us an email and said, "Hey, I've got an idea for this. You're British. You must therefore drink tea." Yes, I do. I'm holding a cup of tea in my hand. So we're going to call this Tuesday's Tea Break Talks, which I think is quite a nice title. He didn't come up with that. Jeff just said you should reference tea because tea works with Tuesday and talks. He says, "I see what you're doing." So every week I can tell you what kind of cup of tea I'm drinking to start off. Obviously, it's the first time I've done one of these where we're drinking a cup of tea at the same time. I normally have a drink break before we record to make sure I'm nicely hydrated and ready to go. But I have an English breakfast tea. Not only that, one of our clients, and Paul, if you're watching, you'll love this, Haven Knox Johnson. I made it in the first cup I grabbed. This is Buddy the Penguin. If you can't see, I'm holding a cup with a big penguin on it called Buddy. You can see him there. And it's Haven Knox Johnson, who do boat insurance here in the UK and across the EU, and are one of our clients here at Spec, my agency. And obviously, I'm drinking English breakfast tea. Quick debate, Builder's tea. If you're watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify, please leave a comment below. And if you're not, check out Spotify. Our Spotify audience is growing like absolute wildfire at the moment. And we've got commenting on the episodes on there. So you guys can have a little chat while the episode's going on, while you're listening in. So give us a little comment. Should a builder's tea include milk, yes or no? Sugar, yes or no? My vote, which is how I drink my tea, I think builder's tea, which is a British thing. It might have in other countries, but certainly in Britain, if you say, I'll have a builder's tea, it's always now followed up by a question like, what? Okay, sugar, not sugar, milk, not milk. I think it's milk, no sugar, because I think that's the easiest, fastest thing, and you shouldn't really drink normal English breakfast tea without milk. Anyway, enough about tea. Welcome to today's, not episode, I keep trying to call it episode, today's Tuesday show. We are going to be going through a few bits and pieces throughout here. I've got a whole load of notes on the screen in front of me again, which I'm going to be going through while we're talking. In fact, I'm going to talk through them. We've got Shopify news. There's loads of updates this week from Shopify. They've been busy, and there's some good opportunities there. Something from one of our partners, something very exciting to do with tax. It's really boring, and they do it for you. Excellent. Who wouldn't want that? We've got some learnings, just 4 learnings this week from my agency, 2 from the SEO team, because last week I did loads on PPC and then a whole episode on PPC on Friday, because just from popular demand, you guys wanting to know what the rest of the list looked like. And then a few people reached out and said, can we get some on SEO? Like, SEO is the other side of Google and search engines. So yeah, we've got some stuff on SEO. And then I've got a trivia, fun fact at the end, which I'm going to ask you guys a question. You can see if you can get it right. But before all of that, I want to read out a quote from one of my absolute legends. One of the reasons that I previously quit the agency world quite a while ago, and then got back involved in this, and why I'm doing so much in e-commerce at the moment, is a guy called Alan Weiss. I used to call him Weiss, but I realized his name is spelled Weiss. Alan, and then it's Weiss. He's an absolute legend. He is one of the most successful consultants in all history. And I read one of his books, Consultancy Bible, and decided this is for me. That's how I'm going to do things now, really help businesses change and really get under the skin of a business to understand what the real problems are and how we can fix those. I've got a great quote from his blog here, which I subscribe to. The goal isn't to work harder, but to work smarter by creating systems that scale your impact. Absolutely love that. And we can certainly apply that to marketing, a lot of the back end office stuff that we do as well. Right, I'm going to reel off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I got a blank one at the end because I was hit enter and shouldn't have in my notes. 9 points from Shopify this week that Shopify themselves have announced. These are all from Shopify. I had a few last week from other sources. I thought we'll keep it to Shopify just this week. You no longer need to get payment app extensions approved manually if you want to change payment things in your cart and your checkout on Shopify. Shopify, the second one is Shopify Sidekick, which is Shopify's AI assistant. It now makes images and saves them to your files for you, which is quite cool. So definitely check that. I had a play with those actually just before we hit record, and they're quite good. I asked it to modify a product, and it kept the product image exactly the same, cut the background out, and put it in a new location. So really, really useful tool by the looks of it. And obviously the quality of them will be the deciding factor and the conversion rate when you use those. Third one, Shopify Tax now handles VAT compliance in the EU and UK. For all other tax issues in the US, obviously called Tax Cloud, our sponsor. I'm going to talk about them a bit later. They are the partner this week. I mentioned tax, and that is a shameless plug about them. The next one is you can now issue refunds to store credits when processing returns. So someone sends something back, you could still keep the sale, but just send them another product. So you lose a bit of delivery cost, but you don't lose the whole transaction. So that's quite cool. Track inventory changes with new adjustment history reports, which is quite good. I don't get too involved in inventory itself, but sounds like a good feature to track inventory better. Can't argue with that. You can now, this is definitely for us in SEO, you can now translate image alt text, which is quite good. So previously, if you had an image on the site in your multiple language, you could only have one alt tag for that image. Whereas if you've got, say, German, French, English, and I was going to say Australian, who speak the same language in Australia, and Japanese, let's go with Japanese, you could then put a different alt tag for each of the images, which is quite cool. My team have been working quite hard on that the last week since that's been released. Discount codes from shareable links can now combine with existing codes in the cart. So if you have a shareable link, like refer a friend and everybody gets 10% off or £50 off your first £500 order or something like that, you can also combine that with like a 10% off code if they're using that in the cart. Last couple then, manual payment checks now work with multi-currency. So when you do all manual payments. So if someone's going to pay on invoice, check, certainly if you work in the B2B space, or any of you guys do wholesale, which I know lots and lots of you do, and lots of the guests we've had on do wholesale, you can do multi-currency in there as well. And last one, before I have a quick sip of my delicious tea, Shopify email now automatically filters out bot-generated subscribers from an email list. We had an issue with that on the spec site recently where we had so much spam coming in. I thought, wow, we've had 1,000 inquiries. And it was like, no, 995 of them spam from the same email address. They're quite easy to delete. But having that then filter out from your automatically filtering out through Shopify email is obviously super useful. Quick sip of tea. Delicious. If you're not watching, I had a lovely sip of tea, as you probably said from what I said. If you haven't got a tea, I should start. Go and make a tea. Hit pause. Start this episode again. Listen to it with a cup of tea. Let's all enjoy a cup of tea together. Tea is so relaxing, and it's only got roughly, this is a great fact about tea I found out recently from one of our clients that sells tea. They were telling me that tea has a third of the caffeine that you get in coffee. And I was like, oh, so coffee's better. And they were like, no, that means you can drink 3 times as much tea as you can drink coffee. And I love both. So it's a bit of a battle there. But anyway, back to our list. So partner news. I want to talk about TaxCloud. We mentioned on the Friday episode, there would have been one of the pre-roll ads in there about something they're doing at the moment, which I'm going to tell you about in a moment. If you haven't already used, if it's only for if you're in the US, it sorts out all of your sales tax for you and does all the reporting, which is the most frustrating bit, reporting back to every single state over certain conditions and criteria when you've reached a certain point. And it's such a faff, I would say, to sort all of that out, especially if you've only had a handful of orders or you're just above the threshold in one particular state. Like, say you're just above the threshold in North Carolina, you've got to do all your tax at Fort North Carolina. Shutting them out. Saguna have been a partner of ours for a while, based in North Carolina. So it's the first place in the US. It keeps coming to my mind when I think about partners. The TaxCloud, these guys can do that, and especially if you're working on something like we do, and I've been working on Google Shopping since pretty much Google Shopping existed. On Google Shopping, we have to declare what our taxes and our delivery costs and things to Google on top of the product. So using TaxCloud, you can have all of that sorted for you, which is brilliant. But most important, filing those returns for you. It's free to use TaxCloud as well, by the way, and it's $199 a year, which is pretty cheap. So if you break that down by a month, it's less than $20 a month to use the next plan up, the paid one. But you can start off on the free one and see how good it is. But they are doing the most awesome thing, which again I would have mentioned on Friday in one of the pre-rolls. Check out their summer school. It's a free video series built to help you go deeper on the parts of your business that enable you to scale efficiently. We've been using the word profitably as well recently, but obviously it's slightly different when you were looking at back office. So efficiently, one session every weekday from the 28th of July until the 8th of August. Just go to taxcloud.com, all one word, taxcloud.com/summer. If you talk to TaxCloud, though, mention us. You can go to taxcloud.com/winning. And if you are going to use them, you get a free migration onboarding when you switch if you came through us as well. So definitely go and check out TaxCloud. I hate it, genuinely hate it, when businesses are bottlenecked and throttled by some of the back end things when you should be spending your time on marketing, customer service, learning what products sell, what products don't sell, and actually moving the business forwards. And I certainly, all of the tasks I do, I literally color code them, going, is this helping grow and further my business, like working with my staff, working with my clients, finding new clients, etc., or is this just a formality? This is wasting my time. The formalities that waste my time, I get rid of them as quickly as possible. I think, can somebody else do this for me, or should I hand this over to my PA or bookkeeper or something like that? 4 updates from the agency. Well, not say updates. 4 learnings from the agency I thought would be useful to share with you guys. Things you can go and check yourself and see what's going on your PPC SEO. So SEO Core Web Vitals. If you've not heard of Core Web Vitals, in Search Console, and also which is a free tool from Google. If you haven't got that set up, numpty, go set it up. You need it, and it's free. And with the day you set it up, it will give you up to 16 months. If your domain's existed that long, it will give you 16 months worth of data the moment you set it up. There's a thing in there called Core Web Vitals, which is essentially how the page loads. So if things move, if an item itself is too big, if the time to first byte, as in the first byte of information that comes from the server across, is too long, then Google will mark you down. This one specifically is about CLS, cumulative layout shift, which is where during a slow loading page that's not loading quickly enough, if things move, especially when you try and click on them and it suddenly moves and you click on the wrong thing, Google hates that. It fails all sorts of usability checks. And it's the kind of thing as a business owner, you'd normally be looking at your own website on desktop anyway, not mobile, which is where this tends to be way more important. One of our new clients we have just started on a few weeks ago, their product descriptions would be open as the page loads. And just as the page loads finished, they would suddenly disappear behind a read more button. We've changed that. And their rankings have been just slowly sliding, like losing like one position on average every sort of 5-6 months, just slowly sliding down over the last couple of years, which is why they come on board with us. And what we've seen is since we've changed that, the top rankings all still seem to be absolutely fine and consistent, which is good. Stuff in the top 3. All the stuff from like page 3, page 4 onwards, the stuff that we're not really ranking about, wouldn't cry if we lost it, but it's the stuff, the opportunity, the stuff we can get on the first page. Those have been fluctuating like mad the last week and a half. So Rob in our SEO team tells me he's going to update me on this as well in the next couple of weeks. So I'll come back to this as soon as we've got an update. One of my later ones in a few bits, I'm coming back to one I mentioned last week to tell you what's happening there. Second one on SEO is backlinks. You probably heard about people building links, link farms, that kind of thing. Don't build links for the sake of it, and links need to drive traffic. That's Google's criteria. 2 things I want to share on this point. It's 1 point with an A and a B. So 2A is that, where are we? So I completely lost where I was in my notes. It suddenly scrolled. Broken links, that's it. So if you've got links from another site endorsing your site and linking back to you saying, hey, these guys are fantastic. But when a user clicks the link, it lands on a 404 or it lands on a series of redirects and doesn't actually land on the page that they were trying to get to in the first place, or it doesn't exist. Or say it was a product that got featured in a blog post and that product's not there anymore. You won't be getting, I don't want to say no, but next to zero value for that link. And it's super quick to fix that. Where you send it, how you change it, what you change it to, who monitors it is where you might need a consultant or someone like us to come and help with that. But those broken links, massive opportunity. And we see that in almost every site that we pitch to. We check the broken links and we're like, you got thousands of broken links. Someone's worked really hard to generate all these links, all these endorsements of your site to show that you're a good, authentic site and we trust you, and they're not working. We saw on someone's Trustpilot recently that the page people were landing on within the description, there were loads of little links within the description of Trustpilot, and some of those pages were landing on 404s, and we're like, Trustpilot's one of the most trusted domains in the world, and they're landing on a 404. Quick change, and bang, rankings went up once we fixed that. And the second part of this SEO backlinks 2B is disavow reports, which won't mean a lot to a lot of you guys who are not in the SEO world. A disavow report is where you upload basically a small .txt file, small text file with a list of domains, and you say to Google, we've tried to remove these links from their site to ours, but we can't. We've reached out, we can't control their website, we can't change the link, but we're getting all these bad spammy links coming in. We had a client a few months ago that we changed that on, and we were checking the other day. Well, I mean, team are checking all the time, but I had a quick look with them to say, how's that going? Well, they went from 18 out of 100 is the score that we get on a couple of the different tools we use to monitor this. They had 18 out of 100 score, and they now got a 31 out of 100 score. And it was literally 3 or 4 days after the disavow report. It was like running flat at about 17, 18, and then it suddenly jumped to 31. It stayed there since, and it's been there for a couple of months now. And that took us probably an hour to sort out that file and upload that file. Google themselves say they don't care too much about disavow reports, but then we do stuff like that, and we're like, I'll go with the data, not with what I'm told. And the data tells us that is a really, really good thing to do. So a couple on PPC then, on Google advertising, specifically on both of these. One is last week, I mentioned about a client, and we had a couple of emails about this as well. One of our clients was using Performance Max, but Performance Max wasn't just showing on Google Shopping using Performance Max's AI machine learning engine. It was showing on all the other channels. ROI was therefore really low. Google Shopping's always going to have a higher ROI. Well, almost always. There's always a caveat. It's almost always going to have the highest ROI of all the Google channels. And it wasn't showing much on this. We moved it to what's called standard shopping to say to Google, we're not going to use your AI engine and stuff. We could use a target ROAS and say, hey, get me this much revenue, this much for every pound or dollar I spend, I want this many dollars back. But we moved it to standard shopping. So I just wanted to update you guys. The first week, it's been running for 2 weeks. The first week, the revenue tripled. We had 3 times as much revenue as when it used to be on PMax. Excuse me. So one thing about tea is if you talk too much, I won't go into detail in case anyone's eating right now. My wife will tell me off. But we managed to triple the ROI in that first week. The second week ROI is just slightly below before we started. So collectively across the 2 weeks, really, really good. And this is always what I call the holding your nerve as a PPC manager. You want to hold your nerve right now and see what happens in week 3. I checked the stats. It's Monday morning, Monday afternoon, sorry, at the time I'm recording this. Just checked the stats from Saturday, Sunday as well. And it looks like it started coming back up. So we always get these fluctuations when you do a big change on an account. That tripling in the first week is a really good sign. Second week, not surprised it dropped. We just need to get a bit more data. And my team are modifying that campaign as well, adding negative search terms, modifying which products are actually showing in there, and also starting to break down some of those campaigns into potentially into smaller campaigns shortly. But we don't want to upset it too much. I think sometimes we've held our nerve and gone, I'm not going to make a change yet. And the next week's a really good week. And it's like, good, I didn't make any changes yet. Let's get some more data in and decide what we do next. And excuse me, my hay fever is terrible. If I suddenly need to sneeze in a minute. And the final one on PPC then, before fun trivia fact of the week, we should actually call it that. If you've got any name ideas for any of these bits, by the way, guys, send the names in. Like Jeff, thank you so much, absolute legend. I don't know what business you're from, Jeff. It was just a Gmail account, but thank you. But anyway, the final one on PPC, multiple brands we've audited are not using Performance Max's, get this, new search term report, and you can add negatives. So we looked at one last week, and I don't know if you listened to the show or not, Ben, but if you do, you know this is about you, Ben. We spoke to you on Friday, and you had a big huff at this moment. I thought, we'll include that in the show. That was quite a big point. And what we showed Ben on this proposal that we've written, Ben, and audit, and Ben's going to become a client shortly, I'm sure of it. Hint, hint, if you're listening. The search terms and negatives, we had a look, and they were showing for healthy lunch ideas and a whole range of other keywords on Google. And they were the main search terms, spending a pretty chunky percentage of his budget. And his business provides services. So it wasn't even e-commerce with products. But if you're not looking at things like that, or you've got an agency and you want to go and have a little pry around and see what the agency's up to, definitely go and look at the search term report, because you'll probably find some stuff in there that's really unrelated. And if they're not dealing with that, they're being lazy and they're not checking things well enough, and they're just wasting your money on the wrong stuff, which Google, more than happy to get some money from you guys showing you for search terms like healthy lunch ideas, which most people were not going to want to bid on healthy lunch ideas. So good to get rid of that. Look at this, 16 minutes in. It's probably slightly shorter once I've edited this as well. I'm doing great. 20 minutes is my limit. Anyway, fun fact. I'm going to give you a second to try and think of this, or have a guesstimate. Love the word guesstimate. It's like an estimate meets a guess. Okay, so in 2022, Shopify had $5.13 trillion go through Shopify in customer sales and all the other things it does. So 5.13 trillion in 2022. What do you think the revenue was? And this is from Shopify's own site. What do you think the revenue was in 2024? So 2 years later, last year. Just give you a second to think about that. So 5.13 trillion in 2022. How much revenue went to Shopify in 2024? I'm going to quick sip of tea while you think about that. Okay, so the answer is 6.09 trillion. So it's grown by just shy of 20% in 2 years. And as if for a platform the size of Shopify, it's absolutely insane. I also had a look. There's some conflicting stats on this. Shopify themselves didn't release a stat on this that I could find. Some places are saying that Shopify now accounts for 30% of all US e-commerce stores. Other sources were saying 10% of all e-commerce stores in the US. So I'm guessing it's somewhere between those two. But either way, it's growing. If you're sitting here listening to this going, I'm crying, Nick, I want to use Shopify. We're stuck on another platform, insert other platform here. Or we built our own, which is even worse, because then everything you do, you have to pay a developer to change. You can't do much yourself. It depends how they built it, obviously. But yeah, if you want to move to Shopify and you're unsure about it, feel free to send us an email. You can send me an email directly, nick@winningwithshopify.com or hello@winningwithshopify.com if you want my team to pick it up. And send us an email and just say, look, I'm on this platform. These are the reasons people don't want to move to Shopify. There might be a reason we can help you move, or I might actually come back and just justify, stop crying. You need to stay on that platform for those reasons that you've mentioned there. Happy to give a bit of advice on that. I hope you found today useful. And remember, next week, if you haven't already, get a cup of tea. It's such an enjoyable show if you're having a cup of tea as well, and you can be sipping along and taking notes of all the great things that we're sharing on here. But thank you so much to my team for giving some of these notes over, some of the learnings from the agency. And thank you for Jeff for renaming this. And we'll see you again next week on Tuesday. And if you haven't already, it's the first time you've ever found us. Fridays, we post our main episode with guests. It was just me last week, so it was a bit of a cheat week. But this week, we've got a guest coming in as well. So make sure you tune in on Friday for that. And if you want to get any more information, check out our website, www.wspodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in. See you again next Tuesday for more tea and talks.